Hello and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
And I'm Joshua.
We're staying home and there's not much to do except watch things. So, what with the ongoing pandemic, there was a bit of a resurgence in Doctor Who online over in the UK. They decided to replay the 50th anniversary special.
Really?
Yeah, they did. And they did like a live stream tweet along where they had Matt Smith actually join in and David Tennant and the writer Stephen Moffat. It was kind of crazy because Doctor Who, you know, long-running sci-fi TV show.
Over 50 years.
Yeah, travelling. For the 50th anniversary, which was back in 2013, November 23rd.
I do remember waking up early to watch it.
As do I. It had the current Doctor, then played by Matt Smith, and his companion Clara, joining up with the previous Doctor, played by David Tennant, and a previously never-before-seen Doctor, the War Doctor, played by John Hurt. And they team up to basically take on this, you know, intergalactic threat, as they usually do.
Usually.
And sort of rectify and deal with some of the ongoing plot threads which have been going on for the last few years since the show came back.
Mostly started with Eccleston.
Definitely, yes. Shame he didn't come back, but, you know,
He was
John
meant to be... They had written him into the script, but they had to write... Because he didn't want to come back, they had to write him out.
Oh, yeah. And there's reasons why he didn't, and it's all very sad.
Very sad.
It was good, I mean, it came back, and this was marketed as having a new scene which had been written by Stephen Moffat, which would introduce this episode as it played. We're going to play an excerpt of it now. Josh is going to watch it for the first time. Just play it now.
Alright, here we go.
The Master, as you may have heard, is now a lady. You can tell by the beard. Now, we are assembled to watch a brand new version of The Day of the Doctor. For the first time, this anniversary special is available to mass audiences in groundbreaking 2D. Those of you wishing to recreate the original 3D experience are advised to develop a mild headache while sticking their fingers in their eyes and muttering, "What was the point in this exactly?" As you know, all the original Doctors assembled to make this special episode. Except, of course, for most of them. Look out for John Hurt's long-awaited return to the role. Also, Billie Piper's long-awaited return to a completely different role. And Tom Baker, at long last, reprising his much-loved character. Who was that supposed to be anyway?
So that was Dan Starkey, who's perhaps best known for playing the potato-headed alien, the Centaurans, as his famous character Strax, who's acting as a Victorian butler back in Victorian-era London. This was written, like I said, it was heavily marketed, and it was like, Stephen Moffat has written something new, and that's it. What'd you think? Stephen Moffat, of course, known for Sherlock and the recent Dracula series on Netflix.
I'm just gonna get it out of the way. Moffat.
It's very cheeky.
Very, very, very on the nose.
Of course, you know, Strax has issues identifying men and women. He can't tell the difference between
He's a
human males and
potato. I'm
females.
pretty sure gender is a foreign concept to him.
Oh, yeah, it is. Exactly it. That's why.
That's the whole point. It's a very interesting ad. It's... I think it's what we need at the moment. So I don't know why, looking at the Strax thing, I thought it was Mike Tyson. I thought it was like a terrible Mike Tyson plush. I'm like, what?
He wasn't talking like this. So
Yeah, I don't know. Is
that racist?
No?
It's
It's not racist.
It's an impression.
Making poor fun of the man's speech impediment, for Christ's sake.
It's an impression. It's like doing a Sean Connery like this.
You just gotta work on having a lisp and pretend that you've been beaten in the head so many times that you're not sure what you sound like anymore.
But yeah, it was definitely interesting because
It
it's
was.
like, okay, well, that's that. But it wasn't the only Doctor Who thing to come out. I've sent you another one there, which we'll watch. Jodie Whittaker made an appearance, presumably in a script written by current showrunner Chris Chibnall, best known for Broadchurch.
Chibnall.
Watch this.
Oh, hi. This is an emergency transmission. If you're seeing this, the TARDIS must have detected an upsurge in psychological signals from somewhere in space and time. Basically, I think somebody somewhere might be a little bit worried. I'm actually just self-isolating, or as I like to call it, hiding from an army of Sontarans. But keep that to yourself. Now, here's what I do in any worrying situation. 1, remember, you will get through this, and things will be all right. Even if they look uncertain, even if you're worried, darkness never prevails. 2, tell jokes, even bad ones, especially bad ones. I am brilliant at bad ones. 3, be kind, even kinder than you were yesterday. And I know you were super kind yesterday. Look out for each other. You won't be the only one worried. Talking will help. Sharing will help. Look out for your friends, your neighbours, people you hardly know, and family. Because in the end, we're all family. 4, listen to science and listen to doctors. Right? They've got your back. 5, stay strong, stay positive. You've got this. And I will see you very soon.
One thing I did like about it, though, is it's much more substantial because it's actually a doctor.
It is a lot more comforting.
The thing, I mean, you show that to kids.
Yeah, you show that to kids, and yeah, I would definitely show that to my brother.
It's funny, though, that after 20-something episodes of Jodie, this is the most doctorish she's felt, where you actually feel like, wow, I feel calm and collected and
that's
reassured.
why I had to bite my tongue to make a joke about her last 2 seasons. I'm sorry, Jodie, but you're a great actress, but I don't think Chimble's working for you.
Except for this. If he did write this, it's really good. And if she wrote it, I mean, she might have written it.
I really feel like this isn't Chimble. I feel like this is all her.
But yeah, it is her, just she is hiding in a closet, which, I mean...
Really hard to not tell that you've done this in your own home.
Well, at least she's got the costume.
Hey! That's things that you can take home, you know? I mean, a lot of actors are known for taking stuff off set.
Oh, yeah.
And keeping it. Like, Ryan Reynolds just walked off the set of Deadpool in the suit. Like, keeping this, bye.
Well, I think this is really... It's a nice video, hey? And it's definitely a lot more substantial than the other one. Not to poo on the other one.
Oh, no. We're not pooing on the Mike Tyson plush potato. No, this one is definitely a lot more heartwarming. I do feel a little more positive about it, which is...
It's good.
Looking back, it's like, why couldn't I feel about this in the thing? But I'm not... We've already criticised and done our thoughts on Jodie as a doctor.
Chibnall wrote a short story, which was released on the Doctor Who website. It's called Things She Thought While Falling. And I'm just going to read an excerpt here because it would take 5 minutes and we don't have the time. But I'm just going to read you the final bit of this. So she's regenerated and she's been chucked out of her TARDIS and she's hurtling towards the ground, planet Earth, and she reckons that she can maybe survive.
Now, the train below was insisting on getting even closer. The train, or the tracks, were where she was going to land. She pondered her limited choices. Tracks would hurt. Mouthful of gravel on 2 big metal lines all the way up and down her new body. Ouch. Train might be better. The roof, if she could crash through it, would soften her landing a bit, though smashing through was most likely going to hurt a lot. With a bit of luck, any injuries would be taken care of by the still fizzing regeneration process, like those injuries the Doctor had gotten after he'd crashed through the roof at Naismith Manor, or the hand he'd managed to grow back after the Sycorax had lopped one off. Watch out, Doctor, she thought. Your personal pronouns are drifting. That roof was super close now. She flapped her arms a bit to make sure her trajectory was still bang on. As she did so, she saw that the train lights were out. She saw sparks of a light flashing in one carriage towards the back of a train. Something was wrong. And if something was wrong, she was the man to sort it out. You're assuming you're going to make it through this fall alive, she reminded herself. Now, don't be gloomy, she chided back. Things will be alright. Right now, they're not ideal, but I can muddle through. Probably. That's interesting, she thought. I seem to be an optimist, with a hint of enthusiasm. And what's this warm feeling in my stomach? I'm kind. Brilliant. This is going to be fun, thought the Doctor, as she crashed through the roof of a train on the outskirts of Sheffield, not far from Grindleford. She thought to herself, this is going to be a very interesting night.
Very much like the whale from Hitchhikers.
It's definitely, it is inspired by that. It was said so. It's quite funny. It's like, I'm an optimist as she crashed through the roof.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about the ball petunias now.
Again, it's sort of fun, and I sort of wish that we did have more of that in the TV show. But it's good. This is great content. This is stuff we don't have, and we sort of need now, because who knows when Doctor Who's going to be back. I mean, they do have...
And they were already taking years at a time to do a series.
There is going to be a Dalek thing that comes up. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but, there's Daleks coming, and probably going to be Christmas.
Daleks.
They've already filmed it. They're just waiting, sitting on their hands, waiting to release it come Christmas time. Or maybe they're working on spectacular special effects.
Maybe.
But this is, again, it's a really fun story, and it's great that we've actually got the writers coming out, because there was one final contribution, Doctor Who and the Time War, written by Russell T Davies. He is the man who's responsible for bringing Doctor Who back all those years ago.
And started the trend of super nerds being showrunners. Sorry, a little cynical there.
Because he is a passionate fan, and he came up with this whole story that there was this cataclysmic event before the series came back, which essentially sort of reset the timeline in some ways. It took the Time Lords, the race of the Doctor, out of the picture, reduced the Daleks to, minimal forces. Again, I'm going to read excerpts. He wrote this a few years ago, but it sort of got brushed aside because of the Moffat's own intentions. But as Russell T Davies said now, I've gone back, I've revisited it, and because Doctor Who is so fantastic and in flux and anything can be canon and it's all good, he's rewritten this. So I'm going to read some excerpts.
But the Daleks and Time Lords screamed in vain, too far away to stop him now, and so the Doctor stands alone. He looks out from his eyrie, across the wreckage of 1,000 worlds. Below him, fragments of the Time War, broken reefs of Gallifrey and Skaro washed up into his backwater to rot. His creaking wooden platform shivers with ice, a mile high, atop the fragments of Morbius's red capital, its vile towers fused into the black, friable spires of Yarveling's church. And yet the Doctor can see glimpses of Earth. The planet had been replicated 1,000,000 times, to become the bullets fired into the Nightmare Child's skull, and now splinters of human society have gouged themselves into the wastelands below. Relics of Mumbai, shards of Manhattan, a satire of old London town, remnants of better days. The Doctor looks down. Her skeleton lies at his feet. The bones relax into dust, and she is gone. The Doctor looks up. In front of him, at the edge of the platform, a brass handle mounted in a simple oak casement, the only remaining extrusion of the moment into this world, the rest of its vast bulk hidden, chained to an end form, churning behind a dimensional wall, screaming to be used. He steps forward, he grips the handle, he wonders what his last words should be. He decides that last words are useless. He pulls the handle down, flat. The moment happens, the universe sings, the war ends.
Really intense imagery.
Very.
I mean, the Time War is a somewhat nebulous, event which has happened within Doctor Who. It's sort of been depicted a few times. There's a lot of Daleks flying around shooting and explosions. But this is otherworldly. This is like eldritch horror almost. This Nightmare Child, we don't know what it is, but the fact that they replicated the Earth millions of times to use as bullets to kill this entity, a planet being used as a projectile weapon, and it further goes on about how years were used as ammunition, that in one conflict the Doctor aged 5,000 years and then down to a child in the space of a second. It's terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
It's really mind-boggling, and it's not something you could put onto the TV unless you went and just scrapped the entire series and made one long episode and put all the budget into that. But it's again, it's really cool that we've got these stories, and especially in this time of desperation with Doctor Who done for the year as well, and feeling a bit of a letdown in some ways. It had its moments, but I felt a little on it, and it sort of made me excited again, and I'm really thankful that we've gone and got these new stories. How do you feel?
This is probably the one place I'm not a book man.
You're not a big Doctor, because you do like to read your books, don't you?
I do like to read my books, but for me, there's already enough stuff that I read. And Doctor Who I've enjoyed far too much as a visual medium.
There is a lot of Doctor Who out there, and I mean, you can find it all, online.
Yeah, Big Finish and all that, and...
Oh, yeah, audio
I don't
dramas.
know. It definitely is the type of thing I would read, but if I only read just that, I would be doing myself a disservice, which is why I sadly only stick to the visual. But I'll definitely pick it up.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's still fantastic that we're just getting this new content now. It's great. But anyway, to finish off this episode, we've still got a bit of time left. We're going to discuss a film special to you, which we sort of had to lose due to technical issues. This is Escape from New York.
Very relevant at the moment.
1981, John Carpenter film written by Nick Castle, starring Kurt Russell,
Donald Pleasant, Lee Van Cleef, Isaac Hayes, Harry Dean Stanton, and
Ernest Borgnine.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's say it how it looks. I watched this last night. Much better than I remember, to be honest.
It ages well.
Because it does say that in 1984, crime within the United States had risen by 400%, so they'd gone and walled off the island of Manhattan and turned it into a mega prison. And Snake Plissken, who was due to be sent there in the year 1997, is instead sent to go and rescue the President of the United States, Donald Pleasance, in order for his freedom.
Goes in.
And yeah, it flows, hey?
It flows. Is agency to it because he's got 23 hours. Otherwise he dies, and it's not like, oh, you know, the guards will shoot him or something about it. No, they've stuck cyanide explosive capsules in his neck.
Yeah, which will explode when the time ends.
And they can only be taken out within the last hour.
Oh, yeah.
Last 15 minutes of the last hour. And they get it down to the wire.
I did count. I did bring out my timer, and they definitely play a lot with time. But yeah, it does overrun a bit, unfortunately. When you do see the final countdown, it says he has like 1:13 seconds left, and I counted, and it was actually like 1:40 or something. But again, you're playing
did it with like, in the film, it was meant to be like, there was 6 seconds to spare.
Yeah. What do you love about this film?
What I love about this film, the score. Carpenter's score is beautiful. The set locations are amazing. And the characters are a lot more memorable than other films of that time.
There's definite world building to this.
It's something in itself. It was the start of something what could have been so amazing. Escape from New York got a sequel, Escape from LA, where LA has pretty much become seaborne now because of a massive earthquake. And then it was meant to conclude with Escape from Mars, which became The Ghost of Mars because of the terrible reception that Escape from LA got. The characters are beautiful. Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. This was, I think, to me, this put Kurt Russell on the map. We had seen Kurt Russell before, and...
Oh, he was a Disney star. Yeah, this was his attempt to really shake his Disney image.
It was. And then you've got Lee Van Cleef, who up until this point I've only seen in westerns.
Yeah.
And this was technically where I'd seen him first. I'm like, this guy looks really fun. Oh my god, it's the guy from A Few Dollars More.
Yeah, because I didn't see those films until later on, and then I'm like, oh wow, okay, I recognise him now.
Yeah, Isaac Hayes, we all know as a chef.
Hello there, children.
Playing the Duke of Manhattan. Oh my god.
Yeah, he's...
I'm used to hearing this bubbly man talk to 8-year-old boys in a cartoon, and now he's shooting up a storm and being this terrifying gangster type.
Very menacing. You did mention in the original review, which was something I'd forgot, his car, because Harry Dean Stanton's character, the Brain, he's gone and created like a small oil refinery.
Yes.
Which has allowed them to power vehicles and have this power to rule over the people on the island.
He's got like chandeliers on his headlights in front of the car.
It is really quite out there, and again, sort of going back obvious similarities to Mad Max, but to really say that does both a disservice.
There's a working theory that those two share a world.
That would be cool.
Because the end of LA, Snake activates the satellite which destroys all technology on Earth.
Oh.
All electrical technology.
Wow.
Which is what meant to have led into the fuel crisis, which we now see evolve in Mad Max.
That's a cool comic. They could definitely explore it in, because they've had actually a crossover comic with the other Kurt Russell, John Carpenter film, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes.
Which is one of my favourite John Carpenter films.
I couldn't get into it. I tried.
It's very wacky.
It is.
It's all in the reflexes.
Yeah.
It's but my favourite's definitely Halloween. And this was actually co-written by Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers in Halloween. He played him for the most part. There's like several different people who played him, but he went on to direct the film The Last Starfighter, as well as Dennis the Menace. Really funny. Oh. And he still does play Michael Myers to this day. There is strong world building to this.
It is. It's from the beginning, the opening narration, you feel like this is a timeline that could very well still happen.
Do you know who does that opening narration?
No.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Again, 3 years out from
what
Halloween.
What the hell, Carpenter? That's awesome.
Yeah, and produced by Deborah Hill, who was his partner when he made Halloween, and you know they were, creative partners for quite a while. It's
the effects don't hold up with the Gulf Fire.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other stuff is practicality.
Yeah, there's we did discuss this originally, but we got lost. They wanted to have like a 3D wireframe model of when Snake enters the city in his glider.
The Gulf Fire doesn't have windows.
Yeah, so it was like this 3D, wireframe scan. They couldn't do that at the time because it's 1981, computer graphics are very expensive, so what they did was they built this model of Manhattan which they used for practical shots. So what they did was they lined all the corners of the buildings and quite a lot of other details as well, watching it like, wow, there's a lot of detail here. They lined it in a reflective tape and filmed it under a black light, so it looks like a wireframe. But it's not, it's just a physical model, and that's that ingenuity of old films.
It's something that would only be mirrored but taken to that larger scale with the Star Wars original trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
Later. No.
Or at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, same time.
Because he did, Kurt Russell did compare Snake Plissken and his acting to not only Clint Eastwood, but Darth Vader. He did look to that. And it's an interesting choice, that, because...
Interesting comparison, yes.
he's effortlessly cool. Yes. I would say I was sort of like shocked at first because he does speak in this raspy voice, and he does sort of sound like a guy who just speaks like me, who's trying to sound cool and tough but not lowered the pitch. But he does do a lot, which really
a presence.
Yeah,
using his voice, sitting in the room where the film should have started, where he first introduced the Snake. He's just sitting there, lights a cigarette, call me Snake. It's like, boom, done. I'm sold.
Certain matte paintings were rendered by James Cameron, director of Terminator.
God damn it.
And Titanic.
Yeah.
And Avatar. So he actually did the paintings of like the New York skyline, which you do see in certain scenes, which is like, wow.
There are some disappointments with this film. It's not all positive. Yeah. I do wish we got to see the head of the Statue of Liberty as shown in the posters.
Yes, which was later referenced in the film Cloverfield. J.J. Abrams actually acknowledged that he was so taken by the imagery of that poster for this film that he incorporated it into his film, 20-something years later.
He was meant to use a different rifle as well.
It looks like an Uzi with a silencer.
No, it is one.
Yeah.
He was meant to use something like a Steyr originally, which they sort of did with the next film, but there's not a lot of these issues are just stuff that they couldn't really do practically. And this is also one of those films where it doesn't age. It ages well story-wise, it just doesn't age location settings because the primary... So Snake's told there's only one way to get into New York that we're going to send you through other than, in handcuffs, is you got to come down through the World Trade Center.
Well, it is only set in 1997.
Yes, so it's only set in 1997, but at the same time, you go back and watch this film and you go, it's not possible to do anymore.
There were a few little moments, like when he does land on top of the World Trade Center, like, he does speak, and he goes like, call me when you get out on the ground, and then it just like cuts to, it just looks like he's somewhere in the Bronx.
Yeah.
It's you don't see him journey down. There is like a bit of like a jump scare moment where he's standing in the wreckage of the offices, the World Trade Center, and someone runs by in the background, and like, it doesn't expand upon that. I expected him to be attacked in that scene. No. Just a tiny little nitpick there.
Tiny little jump scare, but still, it adds to the atmosphere of it.
Oh yeah.
It's a scenario that no one would want to be in, and this is why I originally loved it. It's not the characters, it's also atmospheric.
Very atmospheric.
Especially when you have the moment with the crazies coming out from the underground.
Oh, yeah. It's really cool, that. I said I liked it more, and this was actually written after the Watergate scandal. It was written in response to that, and the ending is quite funny as well.
Yeah.
Donald Pleasance, He's an interesting presence. He's, I guess, the classic Blofeld from the Bond films.
He is the original Blofeld from the films.
Dr. Loomis as well from Halloween.
Yes.
I saw this child with blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. The wig when he's prisoner of war, that was his idea. He drew upon his experiences as a prisoner of war during, I think it was World War II, maybe Korea.
Possibly one of the two, yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite cool. And I was talking to a friend. Surprising, I know, about the video game series Metal Gear, created by Hideo Kojima. Also
large
known
inspirations from Escape from New York.
Yes, like
the designs of the character.
The character Snake
is, and there's a nod to it as well in Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty.
Yeah,
where you're playing as a different character and you come across a man who you believe might be Snake, but he calls himself Iroquois Pliskin. There it is. And that in Russian means rattlesnake.
Oh. Right, so Pliskin does actually mean snake, does it?
I'm pretty sure it does.
Oh.
I'll double check that for you.
That's cool. But yeah, I was talking to a friend because she was looking into it for whatever reason. She shared a few things with me, and she'd been told that those films, you know, Hideo Kojima, he's Japanese, but he's definitely got like a love of American action films. And I did watch.
Direct films.
There's this very sort of strange energy to this film, and the footage from the Metal Gear films is very deliberate. It feels it's very sort of American. It's very archetypical. Before like the bombastic, you know, Terminator explosions, James Cameron, your Predators, your Commandos.
Yeah,
it's very old school.
What it means, only where it's from.
And there is like a lot of thought to it that is very deep.
It is. More on the inspiration, you know, how this series of films that was meant to be a trilogy inspired, quite frankly, what's heralded as one of the best stealth series games in the world. And just how art imitates art, but makes it just that little extra wonderful. This is a beautiful watch. I was thinking about reviewing or recommending Highlander, which is another cult classic film. It and this are films that you can go back and watch, and sometimes you'll pick up details you miss, or you'll just go, this is amazing, it shouldn't work, but it is.
Yeah, it's different from your standard fare. There is brains to it.
There is.
And it is a quick film, but it feels very deliberate.
The opening was very long, because it was originally meant to actually open with what he was being sent in for.
I think it's wise that they cut it out.
Absolutely.
I definitely think now. They did actually talk about a remake of this a few times.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. However, in 2019 it was reported that Lee Whannell, perhaps best known from the Saw films, will be writing a script after Luther creator Neil Cross completed a recent iteration of the project. Luther, Idris Elba thing. I'm thinking, if there's a remake of this, are they going to get Idris Elba to play the Duke of New York, of Manhattan?
I would pay money to see that.
Because one thing I guess they could do now is that they would definitely really flesh out that element and really ramp up, because of course, you know, you've kind of got 30, 40 years. And,
I mean, if you wanted to remake the series, don't have Kurt Russell back in it.
Nah.
And make it probably a little bit longer. And restructure how you do it, how you show the film. Sort of the scene by scene. But if you were to do a new Escape film with Snake Plissken with Kurt Russell behind the mantle again, have it be a continuation. Kurt Russell's still very good and able to act, maybe not as physically as he used to as Snake. I would like to hope that Kurt Russell is willing to go back and don the eye patch and give us that final farewell to such an iconic 80s character.
Set in 2036 probably.
2036, we're back on Mars or something, or, you know, let's do Escape from Canada.
Why not? Escape from Australia.
Hey, you know, we might get that
Time
Mad
travel.
Max crossover that we've been looking for.
Oh, yes, definitely.
But
anyway, this has been the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
And I'm Joshua.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week.